I'm going to play around with my older Canon Vixia, the 600, I think. I don't have a microphone hooked to it. I'm just using the onboard microphone. Seems to be picking up fine. I don't know if it'll get any echo or any of that going on with it. So we shall see. If it's not totally heinous, then fuck it. I'll keep the video. Still dealing with my back issue that I pinched a nerve in my back up in here in the shoulder area. I think it's C6. And I've been to a chiropractor twice, but that's not fucking helping at all, because chiropractors don't actually do manipulation. They just want to use a sledgehammer to attach a piece of small trim. And therapy needs to be more of a, some traction and warmth, and then pull those vertebrae kind of apart through pre-traction, and then get it lined up where it belongs, and then let it go slowly back together. And then that way it fixes the problem. Very few physical therapists know the types of manipulation that will actually do that, which is Cyrex. I think it's CYREX or something like that. It's an older manipulation. You can watch videos on it. And it works quite well, and I've always had that done to me throughout my many years of doing floor covering and hurting my back. And I've herniated discs 3 times in the past and went to a good physical therapist and was back to work within a couple days. Doesn't seem like many of them know how to do that anymore, and it's probably because they want you in and out. They don't want to treat you, just kind of like having cancer or any other problem nowadays. There's so much more money in the treatment than the actual fix, cure, deal with the causality and then make it all right. See, just setting up like that really causes pain and everything. So I don't know what to do with it. I've called 3 or 4 of the physical therapy companies in town here and where I live, which is another town down the road a ways. And they're all like, no, we don't do that type of manipulation. And it's like, well, I'm not asking to walk on water here. I'm just asking to be able to walk, and not be in pain. So it's aggravating. I might have to call my therapist, which I think he's retired now, up in northern Arizona, and see if they can recommend somebody or go to Phoenix or Tucson. But I'm going to give it a little longer. According to my chiropractor, all my vertebrae have been adjusted and aligned. So they should be in the right place. And I'm hoping it's just inflamed nerves from being pinched or whatever. But as every day goes on, I'm starting to think that's not the case. So, I could go back to the chiropractor one more time and say, look, doc, in spite of all your high-level training and how smart you think you are, I need you to make sure you got that vertebrae back in alignment. Now, I know when I had herniated a disc in my thoracic area, that was very physical. And I had a very good physical therapist in California, and it took 3 people to get the pre-traction going and the heat and everything to where you could get it back in place. I'm not sure about the vertebrae up in the I guess it's the C sections. There's, different letters for different vertebrae. So I'm really discouraged because I got a lot of things to do. I just have shit to do, and I can't fucking get it done. So I'm bummed more. I never like being disabled enough to where I can't at least work on my fucking projects or my hobbies, you know. Not the end of the world. I mean, obviously I'm here at work, so making money. But, you know, hobbies become important too, you know, especially when they're work hobbies. So it's put a kibosh on my mini camper build for now. So I think I'm going to hit Harbor Freight. They're having a big sidewalk sale or parking lot sale. And I'm going to get two 100-watt Harbor Freight solar panels. And they're $89, so it's $35 off. And that's because I'm an Inside Track member or whatever. So that'll save me $70. I have some projects I want to do with that. I want to hook up my barn to solar, mainly just to play with solar. I mean, I have electricity. You know, I'm not off grid. But it's still nice to see if I can run all my lights and certain pieces of equipment off of solar with a small modified sine wave inverter to run my LED lights, and hopefully they don't flicker and drive me crazy. So that's another little project I want to do. As far as running my welder out in the barn, I will have to run a generator probably for the hour or two that I'm welding, which is okay. Or I could run a heavy cord from my actual workshop about 250 feet to the barn and bury that, and then have like basically a sub panel out there that would run my welder. But you know, that's all still, I'm not sure. So we'll play it by ear. I was watching some video today on you know, the state of affairs in the fucking world and, you know, political bullshit. And it kind of hit me because a lot of times, like, my wife gets very involved into the watching of videos and the minutia of who did what and said what and how it's going to end and all that. And I like that too. But I was thinking to myself, I'm scanning through YouTube, just, you know, reading the thumbnails. And that's kind of like my ticker tape of what's going on, watching, what the fuck? What did he just say? And I thought, you know, understanding America and geopolitics is kind of like when you're on a road trip. You can look out the window and you see all this countryside. We'll pretend that's America, which it is. But you're only seeing it for a moment. It's just skimming by. And you're not really stopping. You're on a road trip, but you're not going to stop and ask every farmer, you know, what kind of plant that is, or what did he grow this year, or how's the weather. So you get this slice of America. And if you drive through communities that are depressed and kind of bankrupt or broke, you see that as you drive by. Now, you don't stop and ask the mayor or the town council what happened to the economy in that area. You just get an overall view that things in that state or that territory or area are fucked. And you can assume it's politics, because it's always politics. You know, when an economy is bad, it's because the fucking leaders are not leaving people alone, and they broke something. They're playing with alien technology. They broke it, and now they don't know how to fix it because, well, they're mortals. They're stupid. You know, they'll blah, blah, blah and tell you vote for them again, but they don't know how to fix the problem they created. In fact, they can't even connect the dots to see that the problem is actually created by them or the other guy. So you get this view, and I was thinking, you know, when I was a kid, growing up in Tucson, outside of town, my parents owned a bar. And it had horse racing and baseball and all this stuff. It was pretty nice. I don't know how long they owned it or what ended up happening to it. But we would drive down the highway, and it was heading south toward Nogales, I think. But I think it was the old Benson Highway. And it was a bar called Soto's. And they had bought it from somebody. And if somebody remembers that way back, I mean, I'm almost 70. So if you remember that far back, you're probably even older than that. So maybe you passed away. But we're coming back into town one day after watching some baseball at the bar and stuff. And back then you drove past I think it was Tucson International Airport. And because that's one of the oldest international airports in America, actually. So I'm driving back, and I'm looking out the window, and I'm probably 6 or 7, I don't know. And there were these big-ass water towers. I mean, bucking huge water tanks, the kind that have the bulging bottoms. I mean, it almost looks like a balloon ready to pop. And they're really big. And I'm looking out, looking at that, and so I asked my mom, I go, what are those over there? And she didn't really look to where I was pointing, because I think she was driving at the time. And so she kind of glanced over, and right next to these big water tower were all of the hangars and stuff for the airplanes and stuff where they would do maintenance and stuff. And she goes, those are airplane hangars. I was like, oh, awesome. And, talk about the weirdness of it. I'm looking at a water tower, and she sees airplane hangars. Now, she was right. What she saw were airplane hangars. What I was asking about were water towers. So for the longest time, I'm wondering, well, how the fuck do they hang an airplane off of those big towers? And what are they full of? And is that designed to hold the airplane up in the air or something? Because, like I said, I'm 6. What the hell do I know? So it's interesting how information can be absorbed. And then you might ask CNN a question, or they might be talking about the airplane hangars. And because you don't know enough about the geopolitics of the world, you're questioning the water towers. And this is how information becomes from being poorly informed or misinformed to uninformed, because so much is going on around us in the world that we're asking questions of people that are disconnected and looking at the problem differently and giving us a different answer. They're not lying. It's not misinformation. My mother wasn't filling my head with misinformation. She was right. What she saw and thought I was asking about were airplane hangars. Garages for airplanes. But I knew the word hangar, it's where you hang your clothes up. And that big tower, which is way off the ground, must be an airplane hangar. That's where they hang the airplanes, like a coat hanger. So as we're on our road trip, ripping down the highway at 70 miles an hour in life, we're seeing all this decay and prosperity and the amber waves of grain across America, and you're absorbing all this information at a pretty high rate of speed nowadays. And if it's a proper road trip, you'll stop and get gas, and you'll hang out, and you'll get something to drink and go to the restroom, wash your hands, and grab a frickin' hamburger or something. And then you might talk to the guy, at the the guy that pulls up getting gas in his big truck, and you can tell he's a rancher or a farmer, and you're like, how's things going? It's not really good. Kind of dry lately. Really? Is that why the fields look a little peaked? And it's like, yeah, we haven't had rain for a couple months. Now, me being from Arizona, see, we irrigate, so rain isn't the issue. You need water, just fucking pump it out of the ground and spray it on the plants. So, to them people that live in rain belt areas, they're waiting on the rain. They don't irrigate that often. So you learn things then about that area that you drove past, and you figure them out. And that's what we need to do in life. We need to realize that we're not driving past this information, but we're definitely scanning the information being fed to us from news and TV and movies and comedy and everything, and politicians and blah, blah, blah. And we need to, be able to take it in and understand it and equate it to what we know to draw our own conclusions. But it's not misinformation most of the time. It's just not the information we were looking for. But maybe we didn't ask the right question, or we looked at it wrong. I thought the farmers maybe in that area weren't watering their fields. How stupid is that? When the reality is they don't irrigate. That's my state. So I guess the thought was that it's like, well, how do we decipher this amount of information that we're taking in? And how do we bounce it off of what is a known reality? I was watching something, or somebody had made a comment on Facebook, so I was watching the post from that thread come in, and they were talking about the new House bill to remove Secret Service from disgraced politicians that coincidentally were found guilty of a felony. And one lady was saying, well, that's good, throw them all in jail, and why should we pay for their Secret Service once they're out of office when they're criminals? And she's looking at it from her known reality that Trump was guilty, even though all the founding fathers were considered terrorists and would have been hung if they would have been captured for terrorism, treason, sedition against the king. But, good thing they didn't, because it's how we created America. So the reality that this lady was looking at it from was kind of skewed, like, well, Trump's guilty. He went to court. And not looking at the facts, like stopping and, on your road trip and looking at the facts and going, well, was that a crime? See, I mean, a police officer can pull you over because he observes a crime taking place, whether it's speeding or running a stoplight, or there was some infraction, misdemeanor or otherwise, that he or she was witnessing that detained you to question you about it and maybe give you a ticket or arrest you for. Now, he can't pull you over and talk to you because you went to Wendy's and was wondering why you made a left turn into Wendy's when McDonald's was a safer right turn into the parking lot. Well, there's a lot of evidence. Did you turn left? The judge could sit there and go, well, did you turn left? It's like, yeah, I did. Wendy's I got in the left lane and I turned left. So what you're saying is that you turned left. Yeah, is that against the law? Well, no, but it's definitely questionable. Why didn't you turn right? We have witnesses that say you could have just turned right into McDonald's and got that similar hamburger as going into Wendy's. Any judge in his right mind would go, why are we wasting court time talking about this? It's a decision. Trump's accountant clicked the wrong button. It wasn't that hush money is illegal, because it's not. I mean, Bill Clinton gave a lot of people checks for quite a bit of money for, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, hush money. Congress has an entire slush fund to pay out hush money. But Trump doing it after he was already president. So it wasn't to hush him so he would get elected, even though they called it election interference. He had already been elected. So he could have just chose to not pay her anything. So, well, you can't stop me from getting elected. I'm already here. It's kind of like, what are you going to do? Fire me? I quit. So there's evidence, but there's no evidence of a crime. And they didn't show any evidence of a crime. And they made it a misdemeanor because they said his actions helped perpetrate an actual felony crime. But they never showed what that was. So see, the police officer basically should have never pulled him over for turning left into Wendy's when it was not a crime. Might have been a bad decision, turn left. I mean, I know people that live their whole lives never turning left. They'll make 3 rights, make a left or something. They're just afraid of making a left turn. Okay, bad decision maybe, but it's not illegal. So this person goes on and on about how, Trump is committed a felony and he should be in prison. And so what if he gets killed in prison? Because it doesn't matter. And totally disregarding the purpose of national security risk of a president. Jimmy Carter still gets, Secret Service protection, and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and their families and their kids. Why? Because what if a known threat to America kidnaps Jimmy Carter's granddaughter and threatens to kill her? They can use that to get him to say and do things that jeopardize America, whether he's in president now or not. You can put Trump in prison? And the thing, he was just the president recently. He's probably got a lot of information on what happened, what went down, and why. And then they could kidnap Trump out of the prison, which is not that fucking hard to do. I mean, I watch movies, and take him to some third world country and go, if you don't, apologize for this interaction here and give us, $100 bazillion, we're going to kill your president and his family, and then we're going to do all these things and learn the secret football nuclear codes and how that all works and stuff. It's like, yeah, for so many reasons that might not work, but for so many reasons that could work. That's why we protect them. So this lady was looking at it, ripping down the road at 70 miles an hour, looking at something she clearly did not understand, making her assumption based on what somebody told her in the car. It's like, why is that happening? And it's because, well, that's an airplane hangar. It's like, oh my God, why would they hang an airplane from that fucking water tower? And jumping on the crazy train and humiliating herself on social media. Because when, she put up a pretty good argument, but when you really just looked at it, it was just stupid. It was like arguing something that can't be proven. The only person dumber than a know-it-all is someone that argues with a know-it-all, especially when they will not even apply critical thinking. You can sit there and be like a 6th grade kid and keep going, why? 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 Well, because he needs national security because he used to be president. Why? Well, because we elected him. Why? Well, we don't want him getting kidnapped and taken to one of our enemies. Why? It's like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Don't you realize how stupid you are? I know you're 7, so I'm not going to slap you. Just shut up. So people will argue these points as if they're like intellectual giants or something. And they'll be talking about why the sky is blue. There's many theories on it. And you know what? They're still theories. So is space, where blue hangs out? Well, space is a vacuum and and it's black in most areas unless there's a star shining on it. What is the color coming off of all this that creates a reflection of blue? Or is it from the atmosphere shining up? Or is it because of the fucking rainbow? Who cares? You can't answer it. You can theorize on it. But one last thing, regarding all this is, and then I'll wrap this up. What makes something go from a scientific theory to scientific law? And that's testing. So knowledge is pretty much man-made. Like, is light a wave or is light a beam? Well, because of all the tests to prove it, you have to have the lights on when you run the test, and those lights actually corrupt the outcome. So because science could never figure out whether light is a wave or a beam, we created light wave technology and light beam technology. So there's an upside to not always knowing everything. And sometimes you can't know everything. But Einstein's theory of relativity is still a theory. It can't be proved. It can't be proved not because it's impossible to make a spaceship or a vehicle or anything go faster than the speed of light, because you can't go faster than the speed of light. It's just we don't have the technology to make it go faster than the speed of light. But we just think, well, you can't break the speed of light because nobody's ever built a ship that will go that fast. Well, like Chuck Yeager said one time about the speed of sound, he goes, you build me a ship and I'll fly it. And they made him an airplane that could break the speed of sound, and he went faster than the speed of sound. And you know what? People on the ground didn't die. It's like, well, wow, that wasn't as hard as we fucking thought. So it'll always remain a theory of relativity until we reach a point of understanding and technology to where we can actually go faster than the speed of light. And then if we get to that speed and we can't go one freaking itty bit faster than that, no matter we still got an inch left to pedal or whatever it is, then we'll go, I guess you physically cannot go faster than the speed of sound. Oh. So all of these theories about Trump and legal issues and the American Constitution and our Bill of Rights and all this stuff, some of them cannot be proven, and they can just be left to the debate of the people that want to just talk ad nauseum about fucking bullshit. But a lot of it can be. That's why we have a legal system, because it can be proven most of the time, unless you get into these abstract bullshit things, that I didn't rob my neighbor. Well, says you, Mark. It's like, well, no, says my neighbor who was the witness to the crime, and he says it wasn't me. Eyewitness says it wasn't me, and he is the main guy that got robbed. See, proof positive. You can't do that with physics and string theory and the relativity and all that stuff. We didn't know, Oppenheimer didn't know if the bomb would go off and destroy the planet or not, because it was all just mathematical theory until it worked, and then we went, oh, phew, that's fucking awesome. We're not dead. They are. Kind of like Hillary. We came, we dropped a bomb, they died. So you have to, as an American these days, you have to, just fucking have to, be able to think critically. And to do that, you have to question, you have to ask, you have to observe. And then as you're observing, you have to go, why is that? And then you have to have enough IQ, not a lot, to sit there and go, well, let's stop and ask that farmer why his fields are yellow. And then you have to be willing to accept it. Like when, if I ask a farmer, why are your fields yellow? He goes, it hasn't rained. Like we were in Wisconsin, for our son's graduation, and it hadn't rained in a long time, and they had to actually start irrigating their fields. And I go, well, don't they always do that? He goes, no, it rains so much around here that irrigation is expensive, and that's just not part of their mathematical business equation. And I was like, wow. Now I could have said to them, well, in Tucson, Arizona, we irrigate all the time. Well, you don't get enough rain. Yeah, but so they could do it. Well, they could. Should they? Well, maybe not. They get a lot of rain. Why would you pay to pump water out of the ground when it's just pouring out of the fucking sky? There's a million reasons, but if you choose to just say no and put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la, I'm not listening. Trump should go to prison. La la la, and all science be damned. Then you are really part of the problem that we face in America. And so it's important as an American to be educated and be vigilant and to understand what we're watching as we drive down the road at 70, 80 miles an hour. Because regardless whether we understand what is happening back there in that community and why it's bankrupt or why it's prospering, doesn't change the fact that it's happening. You can drive by a fire in an old building that's all burnt to the ground and go, what happened there? Oh, it looks like a fire. Well, yeah, what happened? I don't know. Who started it? I don't know. Does any of that matter because it's already burnt to the ground and put out? It might matter to the guy that owns the building and wants to get mad at his grandson for setting his fucking barn on fire. But sometimes all the information is not relevant. What is relevant is what all that information adds up to. You see a bankrupt community, and if it affects your life because you live there, then you start talking to people and asking questions. And then they go, well, yeah, but. And you go, okay, the problem is poor management, poor elected officials, poor tax basin. Our community has a certain amount of tax basin that we can get. And I was just talking to somebody the other day at my wife's softball game. Let me shut this thing up. And I said, Rubio's restaurants in California are bankrupt. 400 of them just closed. Bam. Or 200 and some of their remaining ones because they were already going down the toilet. And I was like, California, that's big. They'll get over it. Every little town may or may not have had a Rubio's and a dollar store and all these things are going broke. But I go, our town is about 5,000, 6,000 people. There's probably 10 restaurants that are privately family owned. And then of them 10, probably, you got Wendy's, Burger King, Jack in the Box, up on the hill, which is what we call it, going out of town, Taco Bell. Those are chains. They will close if their numbers go off, regardless of how much everybody in that town really liked having the Taco Bell. Boom, they'll close it. They'll close Walmart if their numbers hit a certain level. They have bean counters that go, when it hits that number, that level of non-return on investment, we just close the doors. You'll go there on a Monday, and it's closed. The store's fucking empty. And you'll go, when did they do that? Test. So where was I before I was so rudely interrupted by a telemarketer? You have all these restaurants in California, Rubio's, that are closing. I said, what happens in our small community? Because we know Walmart and them will just close like that if their numbers aren't hitting the levels they need or want to keep that one of 5,000 stores fucking open. And then we got, Jack in the Box and these places, but smaller restaurants that are owned by mom and pop, that's a local business, and they will try to stay open even though things tighten up. They'll tighten their belt and they'll go, whoa, we'll try raising the prices a little bit. Maybe we won't give away beans and dip and chips anymore. We'll charge them for that. Where corporations can't do that. They're just like, this is our business model, it's not working, close them. Boom. So I was asking my friend, I go, well, what do we do in our small town when things slow down? I mean, I would say probably the biggest portion of our city budget, next to, federal welfare that the government gives us in grants, but to actually function on a day-to-day business, level, requires sales tax and property tax. It's, they charge some hotel fees or bedroom fees or whatever they call it for places that have overnight stays and stuff. And then they make money off of their permits and stuff like that, which is unconstitutional, rent seeking, but that's how they do it. So let's say that some of the restaurants start hurting, going broke. And the family's just like, hey, kind of done with it. Bucket, close it. Maybe when the grandkids grow up, they might want to open up and try again. So you take away 50% of the sales tax revenue, and then people aren't traveling as much maybe this year because we get a lot of snowbirds, but things are going bad in their state and they just don't feel safe to travel, or they have medical emergencies. It doesn't take a lot to start slowing down the engine of commerce and finance in a small town of 6,000 people. We have some national industries there, like we have a Apache powder that makes dynamite and shit, in another town over, but that's not our money. They're in another town. We have the electric company and SSVEC, the electric company and the power generating station, but they used to be coal burning, and now they're going to natural gas, and that's getting more expensive. So you see, if you take a small community and you start choking it, eventually it starts to gasp. And then other things start hurting in the community. Electricity goes too high, minimum wage goes too high, people already don't want to work. So it's a cascade that breaks what once worked. And that's all because politicians keep moving on to the next shiny object and not, finishing their first project. They don't have enough money to build their first tower, as it says in the Bible, so they already look a fool. But then they turn around and come up with, well, let's build another shiny tower over here, and let's build a splash pad over there, and it doesn't work. And eventually, the community, like so many of them as you drive across America, you see that were once great. And then in 2005 and 6, when the economy crashed, they went bankrupt. And I always am amazed when you look in magazines and stuff, and that these towns are like bucking ghost towns. And because the mine closed, or because this closed. And back in the day, we have Douglas, Arizona, that when the mines closed and moved across to Mexico and Cananea and stuff, the town was dead for years. And the only thing that really revitalized that town, as beautiful as it was, and all the old buildings and houses that were awesome, was the fact that, Border Patrol moved in there because it's right on the border. So now they've got a little bit of oxygen coming into the community to where it doesn't, asphyxiate. But that's, a government program that could change overnight too. And they go, well, we're not going to worry about that part of the border now. We're going to move over here. So then Douglas is broke again. So don't think we're not on the verge of collapse and that some kind of thing can't happen that causes catastrophic events in your small town. And I worry about my town a lot. And I know their finances. I know people on the city council. I listen to their meetings online and stuff, and it's like these people are not really Harvard graduates, which they're not supposed to be in a small town politics. But then when people in the community tell them, maybe you should try this, or I can't afford that, stop doing this and that, they just, no, I'm cool. I'm the city council. I'm the fucking mayor. I'm the city manager. Do you realize how fucking awesome I am? It's like, yeah, you're a movie star in a town of 5,000 people. And when you're unelected, people will forget about you and the little imaginary golden parachute you once wore. And so it bothers me because, you know, we're in an area to where it could be really bad really quick. And then what happens? You know, there's 20 years ago when I moved to where I live, there was a Burger King that was closed up. It was boarded up for 20 fucking years. And then, you know, Burger King decided to open a new Burger King, but rather than take their old building and, you know, fix it up, they wanted to be closer in town instead of off of the freeway. So they built a big, brand new, cool-ass Burger King by Walmart. Well, that makes sense business-wise. So a Mexican restaurant chain in the area bought the Burger King and renovated it and opened it up. And when you go inside, you can tell it was never open that long when it was a Burger King. Because, like, you know, I've been in restaurants that have been in business for a long time. And, you know, the wall tile and the floor tile and things are bad. There's cracks structurally, and it just looks kind of run down. And you can clean it and paint it all you want, but it still looks like it's 20, 30 years old. This building looks brand fucking new. It looks like they just opened it the other day as a Filiberto's, and that Burger King was never there. My point is, Burger King just walked away. They boarded up the windows and left. Bye. And that was it. Nobody gave it a second thought whether our community really wanted that restaurant there right off of the freeway that could pull some money in off of the freeway. You know, because that, see, if you have a freeway right fucking next door and you can skim some of that money off as people drive by at 80 miles an hour because you have a restaurant like Burger King and all that right there, well, that's money now going into the coffers of the city. Well, what the city decided to do is annex up on the hill, and now there's Burger King and Taco Bell and shit up there, and then you have to actually drive through town to hit the other restaurants, which aren't all that great, you know, as far as Burger King, Jack in the Box, and Wendy's. You know, it's not like, you know, a Venturi effect where there's all this people driving by the freeway sucking dollars into our city. No, you have to pull off. So then they annexed up on the hill, so now they can get some of that money as sales tax. But with that came the cost of a new fire district and garbage pickup and utilities and all that. So they're actually, as far as return on investment, they're making less money than they would have if they would have had policies that would have kept those businesses open off of the freeway. But no, that was Bob's business, and Bob always was a dick. So who did he think he was opening a Burger King anyway? And this is the mentality of these small town dicks that run our communities. So when you're driving down the highway and you see a beautiful old town that's 120 years old, boarded up and abandoned, it was because some fucking dick in the city council that didn't know nothing about economics ruined that city. Sure. Are there underlying circumstances? The factory closed? Sure. But you know what? You could still do things to keep that town alive. You know, like maybe fucking manufacturing, small town manufacturing. So, you know, Burlington Mills closed. Well, fucking hell, all the women that used to make coats for Burlington Mills, maybe we're going to do some incentives to where you can actually make coats. And especially nowadays, you can sell them on Etsy and fucking eBay and everywhere. No. The city council just went, well, you know, we always did want it to be a sleepy little town. Fuck that bullshit. And that's where they're stuck. So anyway, this was long enough of a test to see how the audio is on this and everything. And if it's not too bad, I think I'll just put it out there on YouTube. But it's just a rant and rave about my back issues. And some of the stuff I'm still seeing going on, and some conversations with people in my community that, also recognize the danger of what's really going on. Small towns is where you'll find people that are smart enough to go, yeah, it doesn't matter who we elect, we're fucked. New king, same as the old king, we're fucked. So anyway, you guys all take care, love you, and maybe I'll see you next week. Maybe my back won't hurt so bad. Bye-bye, talk to you later.